When the sun goes down and the air gets still, and the hollow call of the whippoorwill sends a chill up your spine, get ready, it's time for the Pine Barrens night. There's some things you should know about the sounds you may hear that just might belong to that creature we fear, who was born in Leeds Point, still lurking here in the Pine Barrens night. And it makes you want to run and hide, find a safer place somewhere inside, away from what could be. That son of Mrs. Leeds still here in the Pine Barrens night. Well, the old legends say he was born late one night to a mother of 12 who cursed a 13th new life. And then he flew up the chimney and disappeared clean from sight in the Pine Barrens night. He's got the wings of a bat and a serpentine tail. In his red eyes they glow like the fires from hell. And when he hisses and screams, you'll pray it's all a bad dream in the Pine Barrens night. And it makes you want to run and hide, find a safer place somewhere inside, away from what could be. That son of Mrs. Leeds still lurking in the Pine Barrens night, away from what could be. That son of Mrs. Leeds still here in the Pine Barrens night. When the sun goes down and the air gets still, and the hollow call of the whippoorwill sends a chill up your spine, get ready, it's time for the Pine Barrens night. Get ready, it's time for the Pine Barrens night.
And Monday I went out solo, flew the drone. I went over by Apple Pie Hill and I flew the drone around the tower. Got some really cool footage. You know?
Cool.
Yeah. And then I went down to the railroad tracks and I came upon a pine snake right in the road in front of me.
Yeah.
So I quickly turned off the GoPro, stopped the truck, and hopped out with my phone and started, filming them and being the snake whisperer like I do. This thing was 5 or 6 feet long. It was a big snake.
Yeah.
And he was doing this weird rolling thing with his head, like, woo, like flopping it around. I thought maybe somebody else had come through and maybe injured him,
Right.
But so I went up to him to see if he's okay. And he kind of went up onto the bank into these little saplings that were coming out, some bushes that were growing. And he started to like inflate, like he was puffing himself up to make himself look more threatening. And then I was like, okay, that's cool. You go your way, I'll go my way. And just as I stopped filming, he lets out this hiss.
Yeah.
Like that. I went, whoa. what was that?
Made himself sound like a rattlesnake, huh?
Right. Yeah, pretty
Oh,
much. And so I said,
earthquake.
what was that? Do it again. Do it again. So I stayed around longer and I filmed him again a few more times and I got him to hiss at me.
Yeah.
And at one point he lunged at me. He curled up in like this S.
Yeah.
And as I stopped filming again just as he lunged at me. I was like, whoa, dude. I was shaking, like filming like this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said, okay, it's cool, you know. So he was off to the side. I got back in the truck and drove a little bit further up to where I wanted to go, park in this area we've done many night ops at.
Mm-hmm.
And I ate my little leftover sandwich. And when I got done, I walked back over with the drone to put it in the clearing there. And I walked over to where the snake was, and he was totally gone. I walked around, couldn't find him. He was long gone. Yeah. So
I still think the best snake story you have is Jenny Jump.
You think?
Yeah. How can you top a snake coming down out of the tree at you?
and the squirrel.
And a squirrel. At speed. At speed. You know.
Oh my God.
Thud.
Boom. That was cool. And then the squirrel went like this and like shook himself off and like ran back up the tree and was throwing shit at the snake.
Yeah. How the hell does the snake and the squirrel get that far? There weren't that many branches on the tree. That was a tall freaking tree.
Oh man.
That was weird.
The snake had itself wrapped around the squirrel. And the squirrel managed to run up the tree with it. And I looked and I said to Heather, I said, is that a monkey?
Yeah. I remember he's doing that.
And then it looked like a tail. And then it just came like it would almost ran back down with it. Okay. It was running back down. And then it just like fell and hit. It was amazing. And then the snake came out towards Heather and I. Yeah. And she wasn't having it. I'm going, hello. Are you okay?
I didn't know a snake could climb a tree that high.
It had help.
Yeah.
It had help from the squirrel.
Oh yeah, you're right. If it was around the
squirrel going
run up the tree with the snake, yeah.
The snake was an unwilling passenger at that point. It was probably thinking, what the hell did I get myself into?
Yeah. Yeah. Talk like about biting off more than you can chew, huh?
That was a black racer, yeah. Or a rat snake, yeah. That's a good one. The one with the rattlesnake was pretty good, though, I have to say, too.
Which one?
When Heather and I were out over on Slave Road by the Overlook.
Yeah. In
the Oldsmobile. And I came up down the sandy, trail and saw a snake in the road. And I got out. And it was a 6-foot eastern, rattlesnake.
Yeah. Okay.
And it started to go off the trail into the bushes again, And I'm talking to it. I'm talking to it, filming it. And it starts to come back out again towards me. And Heather's going, get the F back in the car. Get back in the effing car. I'm going, don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. That was a big boy also. Yeah. The timber rattlesnake, I think it was called. Yeah. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I've had a few snake encounters. Heather was reminding me of one she had today. We went on a hike today over by Black Run. Yeah, beautiful day. We took a little hike out there after we did some errands, and she reminded me about the black snake she encountered over in White's Bog that day we went fishing, and she almost stepped on it. Yeah, she's not fond of snakes or spiders.
Crystal always finds them too. We were up near Raystown Lake going out to the cabin that they had an encounter at, and that's where we found that black bear footprint that we cast. And we're walking back to the cabin, and Crystal's just walking along, and it's a road you can drive out there. We're walking like a dirt path, 2 tire tracks. We're walking along, and all of a sudden Crystal jumps from one side of the path to the other. and it looked like a stick going with her. Here it was a snake jumped at her. When she jumped, the snake jumped. Yeah.
Wow.
It was just a black snake.
Yeah.
But she almost stepped on it, so it was pissed, So she jumped and it jumped.
Sure.
Yeah. She always finds them.
That would freak me out too. I've jumped like that on trails, out squatching with friends, and you hear a noise like in the bushes to your right, and you leap across the trail.
Or if a moth flies and flutters in your face, you jump across the trail.
But yeah, we went out Sunday night to that area where Andy had his samurai chatter, and very soon after we got set up, the girls got into the truck and they were yakking it up in there. So Jacob and I walked over down the trail a little bit to where he had his bluff encounter, his bluff charge. I had him do some of his samurai chatter, which he does so well, and thought I heard something, Then we walked down the trail that takes you down to the water there where we, you weren't there that night, but where Andy's thinking about having people put in kayaks. Okay. And I'll tell you what, it's like so perfect though. I mean, you can really hear things, moving around, and that's where we heard some coyotes the other night, but nothing really, happened. We just had a pretty quiet night. Yeah, we did hear Cletus drive by in his pick-em-up truck. Yeah, I could hear the music playing. So I actually had gone down at that point by myself and did 2 wood knocks, and that's when I heard the music in the distance. So I came walking back up to the other 3, just in case. But yeah, it's just fun to get out, flying the drone, getting some good footage. Hopefully we can use it in the future. I want to start doing some of these little clips for the podcast. Also, we got 30 episodes up now on Buzzsprouts.
Cool.
2 more are being released. One Friday night, which would have been last night if you're watching, and then another one the following Friday night. I'm doing the podcast releases Fridays at 8, and the YouTube releases Saturday at 8.
Okay.
Sound good?
You're the boss, man.
Hey, I just do the work. I'm not the boss. All right, we'll try it again. Sorry. You're listening to Squatch Talks Podcast. Real stories and real encounters told by real researchers. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome back to Squatch Talks Podcast.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
Better
Wonderful.
and better.
Wonderful.
Beautiful.
We're excited. We have a special guest on tonight. We have a local legend from the Pine Barrens, and a Mr. Paul Evans Pedersen Jr. And he is quite a character. I've met Paul on an expedition that a friend of ours had years ago in the Pine Barrens, and he came out and played a little tune for us on his guitar. And that was impressive. And that was our first experience. And then we ran into him again at the Lines on the Pines a few years back, and he had a booth set up there next to our friend. We went out to support our friend again at the event, and we met Paul. And again, just this last month, Heather and I went back out to the Lines on the Pines, and there was Paul back in his same spot he had that other time, with all his amazing Pine Barrens Diamonds, as they're called. And but yeah, I would like to welcome Paul to Squatch Talks. He's author of The Legendary Pine Barrens, New Tales from Old Haunts, and that's from Plexus Publishing Company.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, it's funny. That's one connection we have already, because I notice in your acknowledgments, you give certain individuals credit, and Deb Krantz is one of them.
Yes.
And she happens to be one of my customers.
I saw Deb yesterday.
I'm going to be speaking to her early next week because I just ordered a couple of things for her. So she'll be happy.
Yesterday, got a new case of books that just went into its 4th printing. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So yeah, we have that in common, and I love the illustrations. By the way, I know you've got the poster behind you but I want people to see the cover of the book. And the illustrations were done by your daughter-in-law, Jodi, right?
Yes. Yep.
So,
Yep.
really cool.
Yeah, she's a teacher at Eastern High School, and she's quite an artist. She's an art teacher, and she's very good. Really
that
good.
That says a lot. So that was really neat to read about. And it's funny when we had some, I guess it was what did we double book last week, right? So you wound up.
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's cool. Like I said, we would have been screwed anyway since we lost power, right?
Right.
Curse of Sasquatch. Everything works out as it should. But I was looking at the book over the last few days and reading through some of it. I don't like to speed read through a book, as Nathan will tell you. I borrowed a book from him. It took me a long time to get through it, but yours looks like it's a much better read, I gotta say. And it's one of those types of books that I enjoy reading, but I still like to enjoy it, you know what I mean, rather than blow right through. But in the introduction, it talks about you being a songwriter, singer, drummer, guitarist. You were a chef, a fireman, a hostler. That I'm not familiar with, but I think it explains it later. A hostler. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
That's not a typo. It wasn't a hustler, right?
No. I never knew the position existed until I became one. And that position led to my favorite story in that book.
Okay. I don't want to give out too many details, of course, because I want people to buy the book. Okay.
Yeah. Well, my favorite story in that book is the dead bus. And
yeah.
I was a hostler for New Jersey Transit, which is somebody that fuels and cleans out the bus. That's a hostler.
Okay.
Yep. You work inside the garage, and they have a great big bus wash in there, and everybody sweeps the bus out. There's 5 guys on a hostler team, and after we sweep it out, we park it way, way back, deep back in them caverns of the garage there on the Black Horse Pike. And I got out of that bus, and I swore I heard a kid crying, and it turned out I did. So I'll let you buy the book and read what happened.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Wow. Well done.
That's a good one right there.
Most of the stories in my book started out somewhere with the truth. Most of the stories start with truth, and I just kind of embellish.
Nice.
But to see the truth is a mighty seed.
Well, in addition to the hostler, you're also a newspaper reporter, a moonshiner, truck driver, voiceover actor, right?
Yes.
Antique glass collector. But I think most recently you've been focusing on as I mentioned to start out, the Pine Barrens Diamonds. You're a jewelry maker, right?
Pine Diamonds. I invented Pine Barren Diamonds when I got out of Michelle Scamaffa's canoe in the Mullica River, and I was pulling the canoe towards the beach and stepped on a shard of glass that looked something like this.
Oh boy.
Okay.
And I pulled it out of my foot, and I told my wife Cookie, I said, you know what? That would really make a cool looking necklace. A business was born.
And it does.
Oh, there you go.
It does make a cool looking necklace.
There you
This
go.
is one that I got from you for my wife, Heather. Okay. And
Beautiful.
along with it, these are really something she cherishes. These are Pine Barrens earrings.
Yep.
Okay. That are made from glass that Paul actually finds out in the Pine Barrens and polishes.
I dig it up in Pine Barrens. It's all over the place, really. People think you're looking at coal. But the Pine Barrens, because of the sugar sand we have out here, everybody from South Jersey knows what sugar sand is. It looks like sand that you're going to find on a beach, but it's like the floor of the Pine Barrens. And when people from York came over here, they saw this incredibly pure white, abundant sand. And a fella from Philadelphia named Casper Wister came over here and he said, you know what, the heck with making buttons, I'm going to make glass. Because the problem was anything that you used had to come from England back then. So they started making bowls and carboys and stuff to carry water and store water in. and try to get away without having to pay tariffs and taxes and stuff
Right.
like that. So that's why they snuck down here in the middle of the woods. You know, he was in Alloways Town, which is way down. That's where Worcesterburg glass started, and that gave birth to the glass industry in South Jersey, and all through the years up till about 1900, there were a lot of glass blowing places in South Jersey.
Yeah.
And the reason they all moved west was because they used the Pine Barrens as fuel for the furnace. And after they clear cut most of the Pine Barrens, they were out of fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So everything had to move west where the coal was.
Right.
So that actually saved the Pine Barrens for us, because with those factories, it took all the workers, and all the towns in the Pine Barrens became ghost towns. Nobody lived there. There was nothing to do, which let the Pine Barrens grow back up to what we have basically now.
Right. Wow.
So,
Wow. That's
Really
pretty cool, because you know
cool.
what?
Yep.
I thoroughly am one who appreciates, going out into the Pine Barrens and exploring and tooling around out in nature. I was there today, as a matter of fact, with Heather. We took a nice hike. I was there Monday on my own, flying the drone and hiking in the Pine Barrens. Sunday night, we were out looking for Bigfoot, with my friend Jacob and his fiance and Heather. And I'll tell you what, I'm always out there, and that's how I get my serenity. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
yep.
I can appreciate the fact that it was preserved through efforts like that, and of course, Wharton and all that.
Well, we can thank Brendan Byrne actually for signing it. Him and John McPhee, those two are really largely responsible for saving the Pine Barrens, because they wanted to put the world's biggest jet port in the Pine Barrens. So McPhee had written the book, The Pine Barrens, and gave it to Brendan Byrne, and Brendan Byrne said, "Hold the phone. We're not going to." So luckily we have John McPhee, and I have proposed John McPhee's name to Senator Ed Durr, who has proposed a law to the New Jersey legislature to call the Pine Barrens the John McPhee National Pinelands Preserve. And I hope they voted in, because there's not a street named after that man, and he saved the whole ball of wax for us.
Wow. Honestly, I never even heard his name before.
You know what? A lot of people haven't, and that's not to say it's just I don't understand why this guy isn't the most revered person, at least in South Jersey.
Right.
I'm telling you, without him, and that started out as 2 articles for the New Yorker magazine, and developed into a book. And he and Brendan Byrne got a hold of that book and met with John McPhee, and that's what stopped the development of the Pine Barrens. And there's not a park named after the guy.
Wow.
Wow.
And here's what's ironic about it. I always say the Pine Barrens is a huge paradox. Everything about it is paradox. You have the Wharton Track, which is huge, named after Joseph Wharton. The only reason Joseph Wharton got and bought that ground was to get the water and sell it to Camden and Philadelphia.
Right.
That's the only reason he bought it. And when he found that when the legislature stepped in and said, "You're not selling the water," here, take it. It's amazing. You got the guy that saved the Pine Barren. Nobody knows who he is, right? And then you got a Wharton Track named after Wharton that was going to sell it. So
exploit it. Yeah.
We're here in New Jersey, right? That's where it makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Wow, that's pretty cool. Before we go on, though, I usually, Nathan and I like to get a little business out of the way, because some people don't hang around because of short attention span. So we want to remind everybody to share and like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, and if you're on the podcasting platform listening to us, please follow and rate it if possible. We have our friends at Yeti Bars, YetiBars.net. Just came out with the Squatch Talks podcast, Yeti Bar, which we're very proud. Let me get it that way. The cool thing is they actually sold out, Nathan.
Did they really?
They sold out of the the Squatch Talks podcast, Yeti Bars. Well, I got an email today from our friends in the Yeti Lair that they're back in stock.
Oh, good. There you go.
So remember to use STP10 at checkout if you want to take off 10% on your order at yetibars.net. And hey, just wanted to take care of that real quick. And I'll probably remind the folks at the end also, once again, just because we love our friends at Yeti Bars. And I personally am loving showering with it. I don't know if you got your order in, Nathan, or not, but I know I'm going to bring you a bar if not when I see you next month. Okay.
Okay.
That's a promise. And just want to thank our friends over at Black Rifle for keeping us supercharged and squatching into the late hours. So thanks to those guys as well. So thank you, Paul, for entertaining us. And let me get that out of the way. As I was saying, though, in addition to the jewelry making, I mean, you're quite the musician also. And I was thrilled when I listened to your CD. Okay, I actually play it here at the store now.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. And I know you do have others as well. Aqua Noir, right?
Agua Noir, yes.
And that's where you
Dark Waters.
Dark Waters, right?
Yep.
And I was going to say there's a song on there I have not yet heard called Her Lonely Forgotten, which I understand will give you chills.
You know what? I had that song played on Hugh Hewitt was actually like involved in one of the large network radio syndications. And when that CD first came out, he got a hold of it. I don't know how. And he said that is the saddest song ever written.
Wow. There you go.
Yep.
Wow.
That's what he said. Yeah.
Well,
and I guess I was trying to get into the Hank Williams thing, and I'm so lonesome I could die, and I like to say I channeled one from Hank.
There you go. There you go.
And that's
that CD was the musicianship on that CD is amazing. It's local guys. It's Jimmy Heffernan plays on it. Bill Corvino played on it, and it came out really good. We recorded that in Jimmy Heffernan's basement.
Awesome.
And it came out great. It actually charted on XM Outlaw and finished number 54 for the year. So yeah, very proud of that.
Congratulations.
That's awesome. Well, I purchased this one.
There we go.
At a booth near Paul. It's Lines on the Pines, and Cookie and Paul Evans Pedersen Jr. is on the front. And it has a popular tune of yours, the Pine Barren Blues. Okay,
yes,
which I've heard before, but the one that I just mentioned is not on here, so I'm going to have to definitely get your other one. I'll tell you what, though, I mean, other people have heard me playing this, really are into it, and you mentioned Hank Williams, right?
Yes.
My mother used to play Hank Williams Jr. for me as I was falling asleep as a child, so that's number 2 we have in common. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
But if you haven't seen this yet, or if you have an opportunity to pick that up at an event near you, it's Lines on the Pines.
Well, I'll tell you how that song is really doing well. There's 2 songs on there that are doing well because of one, because of Anthony Bourdain. I played the Pine Barren Blues on the Anthony Bourdain show, the New Jersey episode. I didn't even know who Anthony Bourdain was. I almost didn't do the show, and I was saying, this guy Anthony Bourdain once, and my daughter said, "What?" She freaked out. I said, "What? I had no idea who he was. I had no idea." And she said, "It's the hottest thing on time." I said, "I don't." And they told me when we recorded the song on the show that they're probably going to use 5 seconds of it, which you understand. If you get that much, you're lucky on TV. But the producers liked the song back in New York so much, the whole song is on there, which all of a sudden I'm wondering, why are these hits on this song going so crazy? And people fell in love with it. And then when I did the Sam and Colby show, they played part of in the Pine Barrens night. And I looked today, and that show is up to 7.5 million hits. So I have people contacting me all the time loving that song. So I got real lucky, and I'm very blessed to have been in the right place at the right time. I stayed in Nashville for 10 years. and had very little success. And I moved home to the Pine Barrens, and bang.
Wow, there you go.
Yep. So there again, the paradox, right?
Yeah, well, it's a matter of being in the right place at the right time, as we say. And
Yes, sir.
another place that Anthony Bourdain had on his show was Lucille's Luncheonette.
Yeah.
I think it's
Well, that's
Tucker and
where
Mary,
that's
right?
that's where I shot my part of the episode with him.
Okay.
I was the guy in Lucille's. We were supposed to be eating scrapple for breakfast.
Uh-huh.
We had that scrapple at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Well, I mean, they're usually closed by that time, of course. They close at 2
Well,
o'clock.
a certain somebody got lost in the woods trying to get to Lucille's.
Anthony got lost. Oh my gosh. I can't.
The producer handed me the phone and said, "Can you please tell him where we are?" And I said, "Anthony, what's the last thing that you saw?" And he said, "I saw this huge boulder with the American flag painted on it." I said, "Can you get back to that boulder?" He goes, "Yeah." So he got back to the boulder. He goes, "I'm looking at it through the windshield." I said, "Turn left, follow us down. You're on 539. You'll go over Route 72, keep going, and you'll run right into us." And that's how we got to go.
Well,
he was exploring the Pine Barrens by himself and got lost.
That's easy to do.
As it can be easy to do. But, it's funny because you should have been eating the biscuits and gravy.
Wow.
Oh, man.
That's Nathan and I's favorite, dish when we go to Lucille's. Okay.
There you go.
And Heather loves their French toast. But what I was going to say about Lucille's. Oh, she and I also have the same anniversary.
Really?
April 1st is our business anniversary.
Wow.
So both of us share that same date as when we opened up our businesses. So that's another neat, cool. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was a great show to see you on. I think you were also on, what is it? Mysterious Encounters. Was that the program?
I was on Monsters and Mysteries.
That's the one. Monsters and Mysteries, where you did a thing about the Jersey Devil. Right?
Yep.
And I love the first chapter because it talks about the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
And it's the real story, as you put it.
You know what? When I wrote the book, I wasn't going to put a Jersey Devil story in there. I mean, it was done to death. And I told John Bryans, the editor-in-chief, I said, "John, I don't want to go over this whole Leeds Point thing again, man." I said, how many times can you tell? He goes, "I want you to put a Paul Pedersen take on how you think the thing was built, the thing was born."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Okay." And I was really like in this quandary because I'm thinking I'm holding up the production of the book because I'm trying to think of. So it was really hot out. I jumped in my pool and I'm laying back there just thinking, what in the world am I going to do with this story? A bird alights on the side of the pool, followed by its mate. And they made it. And I'm laying there watching this perfectly still. And I thought, what in the world would happen if some of that dripped into this pool, got caught in the filter, and grew? Because the water had to be damn close to 98 degrees. You could have the filter acting like a womb. God knows what would come out of it. Maybe if squirrels were on there. And that is exactly how I came up with the plot of that story. The pool is the well that's in my story. And
wow.
That's exactly, and I thought there's no way he's going to take this story. He loved it. So as we get ready to release the book, we got really concerned, like these South Jersey purists are going to read this and say, "You got to be kidding." Everybody really embraced it and loved it. And a good friend of mine, Mr. Suey, is 7 generations removed from the Leeds family. And he embraced it, signed the back of the book, endorsed it. So as far as I'm concerned, Ken Suey saying it's good, it's good.
There you go.
That's pretty. That's a good testimonial right there. And I have to tell you, I did read that chapter, and I was impressed with the tale because I've read other versions of the story, of course, and knowing about the legend. And I've even had this conversation with you in the past about some of my opinions, and I've said it on our program before. But I was very interested in the Kamanawinawana year. And they mentioned the 98 degrees too, by the way. I'm not going to give away again any spoilers, but the 98 seems to be consistent there. But how do we know what's a Kamana Wanawina year?
Kamana Wiawana.
That's it. Kamana Winawana.
Okay. Goes back to an old joke I used to tell when I was in 5th or 6th grade about Kamana Wanalea.
Now I get it.
There you go. I'm telling you, that's exactly how that name came to be.
Oh, I love it.
We all want it. We all want it.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out how can I craft this to sound like an Indian name and have it go past most people. You're one of the very few people that picked that up.
You nailed it. You nailed it, brother.
I'll give you a little hint. There's a bunch of names in that book that do that exact same thing. And even my editor-in-chief doesn't know yet.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And I have to tell you, I love your writing style.
Thank you.
Okay. And the other thing is I often read books and in the first couple of pages, there's typos or misprints. Flawless.
Oh, yeah.
You actually had, like I said, Plexus is a decent company, of course. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And they did it solid as far as the proofreading.
John Barrens is a very meticulous. I've never worked with an editor like he just pulls out, and that's what an editor is supposed to do, like a producer in a recording studio.
Yeah.
They pull out the best in you that you have, and he would do that. He would say, "Paul, what if you said it like this?" Or he actually there's a story in there. The Magic of the Silver Queen.
Okay.
That story is about John and his wife. That's where the JB comes from, John Barrens.
He mentions that in his forward.
You got to write a story about this great white corn, because he's only been here, or when I wrote the book, for 5 or 6 years, moved from New York. And he just fell in love with this Silver Queen corn we have. He goes, you got to write a story about where this Silver Queen, and so he pulled 5 stories in that book out of me by doing that. Well, and I love working with the guy. He's great. He
mentioned it was a little short for a book at first, and he did ask you to come out with 5 more stories, and you managed to pull it off. And I tell you what, I just, from what I've seen so far, and I'm going to, enjoy reading the rest of it very soon. I planned on taking it with me on vacation to California next month. And enjoying the rest of it, but I don't know if I can put it down now after starting it.
Well, by the fall, I should have volume 2 hopefully out.
Oh, that'd be great!
Awesome.
I'm fattening up some stories that are in it and thickening it up, as it were, a little bit. And Plexus is interested, so I think it's going to be round 2 with Plexus.
I heard it here first, folks, on Squatch Talks podcast.
Right.
So I want to dive back a little bit into your past, because again, these are some other things you and I have in common. Back in 1962, you went with your father to Indian Guides camp out at Camp Occoneekin in Medford Township. Okay. And it's funny, we had our town hall for finding Bigfoot at the same location. Okay. And you sank up to your chest in swamp muck. Right. And literally it sucked your boots clean off. And what did your dad tell you at that point?
He pulled me out, and my boots were still in the mud. He goes, "That's the Jersey Devil doing that. The next time that happens, he might keep all of you."
Yeah.
It made me very aware of. I learned a lot in the Indian Guides, even at that young age.
Right.
I mean, I was just meant to be out in the woods. But as soon as I got out there, man, I was just enthralled with it and everything about it. Pine Barrens to me are just, it's like I said in another thing, it's like a religion. It truly is, man. It's an amazing place.
It is.
Totally. And that's funny because I can relate with that as well, because I moved down as a teenager when I was 14 from New York to the Pine Barrens to Medford. And of course I was a culture shock, but we used to go hang out and party out by the pole lines, right? Have keg parties and do all that fun stuff. And you talk about in moving to the next stage in the Boy Scouts around 1966, right? About an experience that really shook up your scoutmaster. Now, when I read about that, you guys were all hanging out in the tents, right? I'm not sure exactly the area,
Oh, yeah.
but
Yep.
can you tell us a little bit about what you guys
Yep.
experienced? You heard some kind of
That was back behind Bridgeton, and we were on a merit badge. It was a merit badge camp out, a 3-day survival camp out. And we were learning how to lash and doing stuff like that, because that was going to end up into a camp out in Pennsylvania, where all they did was drop us off with flint and steel. It was called a flint and steel camp out back then, where you got a piece of flint, a file, and some steel wool. That's all you got, and rope and stuff like that. And you had to snare what you were going to eat, know how to get water. It was a merit badge to move you into making Eagle Scout. So long story short, they take us back behind Bridgeton, and we're going to be there for 3 days. And it was behind a farm that one of the kids in the Scout, his grandmother owned the farm. So we were back there, set up the tent, and I guess it was 3 o'clock in the morning, man. I never saw so many stars. The one other thing that I remember about this camp out was I had never seen that many. It was amazing. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Anyway, we are all woken up by this unbelievable scream, and you can't describe it. You know, I mean, you can have people try. I know the kid did on Sam and Colby, and I told him, "Oh, you're close." I said, "You're close, but until you've heard that scream, it's indescribable." But we heard it, and man, we were scared to death. The scoutmaster was scared to death and told everybody, "Don't move." He was scared to death. So the sun came up, man, and he packed everything up, 2 days short of, and took us all back there. And they actually, the troop, the church that sponsored the troop, was mad. Because, I mean, he's not showing bravery and whatnot. And he quit and made his son quit. And that was yeah. But that, I'll never forget that noise. I've heard it since. But the first time you hear it, it's like, whew. Yeah.
Almost sounds like a woman getting killed, right? Like a woman being stabbed to death.
It's the way it starts. It's from low to screech to, yeah, man, it's amazing.
Well,
I've never heard anything like it ever.
And probably never heard anything like it since, right?
And I've heard it again. Yeah, I have.
Oh, okay. Well, that's another story, but I equate that type of scream with a possible Bigfoot encounter out in the Pine Barrens.
For sure. Yeah.
I don't disagree with you, because I today or yesterday, I watched a video that the first scream in that video, there's a whoop, there's that scream, and then there's a whoop. The scream, not unlike what we heard. And it's I'm trying. Oh, it was in Alaska. Okay. The video was from Alaska, the Alaska Triangle.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. With my friend Cliff.
That video, that scream before the whoop, man, that's pretty close.
Yep. That's amazing. Wow.
So I have a whole theory about Bigfoot and Rougarou and Jersey Devil, and I think a lot of them are mistaken for each other.
Yeah.
And that would make sense, because the Jersey Devil has been seen since before white people got here.
Right.
Right. The Indians had a word for the Pine Barrens, which was papusing.
Yep.
And that means place of the serpent.
Yep.
So something's been around here since way before we got here.
Oh, no doubt.
What can live that long, right? It's got to breed, or it has to migrate. And things migrate, canines migrate, a Bigfoot might. So who knows, man? I mean, that's what people are seeing something.
Well, Nathan, tell Paul what you think about how the Native Americans, right?
Oh, yeah. I still think they followed the Native Americans just as they took their teepees and were nomads going across everywhere in the United States, North America. I think the Bigfoot's still doing the same thing. That's
a theory, man. That's great.
Yeah, I think they're still following the same Native American hunting grounds and everything that they always did.
Yeah. Well, I've always said, man, too many people have seen something that they cannot explain. And I mean, I know some straight shooters, people that you know when somebody's putting you on.
Right.
And this guy, especially one or two of them, I know he saw what he said he saw. And the story he tells, man, will run the hair right up the back of your neck. There's no question about. He saw something fly into a herd of deer.
Okay.
And usually, if something chases deer, they all run in one direction.
Right.
This thing flew down and they scattered in a circle. So it landed in them.
And you know, I have an explanation for that if you'd like to hear, but
okay, yeah,
because I've spoken with other witnesses as well that have described this type of thing. You know, we've had many reports where they tell about a Bigfoot leaping into a pack of hogs or a herd of deer, and they can leap pretty far. I have to say, I've actually had witnesses say that it crouched down and it was able to leap right over an 8-foot high fence. You know what I mean? From a squatting position. Okay. So from what I understand, they're good leapers. Who knows if they also travel by trees? If they're juveniles, they might also be able to utilize trees, right? Yeah. So that is a possibility, right? But who knows?
Some of the theories they have about this dog man thinks it hides in trees way up and could almost do what you're saying, jump into it. So who knows what we're saying, man?
And I was just going to include Dogman in those other, the Rougarou and the Bigfoot, and you know what I mean, into that thing you had just said, right?
Yeah.
As misidentifications.
Well, you know what? I had something happen out here the first game of the Phillies playoffs. This is something I haven't told anybody, but I'm walking and getting a beer, and the game's about to start, and I notice my back light goes on. I got a motion detector light. And I didn't think nothing of it. It was raining. And I sit down, I'm watching the game. I get back up and it's on again. And I thought, what the hell is this? So I look out the window and I thought I saw eye shine. So I moved through the kitchen and dining room and look out, open the back door, and I see amazing eye shine behind a tree. And whatever this was looked like it wanted to go from the tree to where my picnic table is. But it stopped itself. But it was doing it real herky-jerky, like it really wanted to, but it was afraid. Because at that point, those two lights would be shining right in its eyes. And those eyes were big. They were huge. So I went to go get my piece. And when I came back, it had moved, I guess, 30 yards into the thicket and the woods that run, and was standing there looking at me. And I thought, I don't know what the hell it is. I'm not going to shoot it. Right. So I sat back down. I got back up and it was gone. But I'm telling you what, man, that was really crazy. Now we have bear out here. They just saw a bear on Main Road, which is 100 yards from here. So, you know, who knows, man.
Right.
But I've never seen a bear act like that once. I mean, it wouldn't act like that.
Yeah. No, that's not typical bear behavior.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But I had a witness tell us that, you know, a bear looked at her through her kitchen window, which is 8 feet high off the ground over by Apple Pie Hill. And, you know,
really,
I said, well, bears don't generally, you know, peer at us through the window. So I think she had a misidentification with a Bigfoot as well. She actually sold her house and moved away after that.
Well, you know what? People see stuff, man. And yeah, it's, if you think you're in danger, what else are you going to do?
Right.
You got to deal now, either deal with your fear or move.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that story with us. That's pretty cool. That's what our listeners love, is to hear different, you know, encounters and stories that kind of border on the scarier aspect as well.
Yeah,
too,
that was pretty thought provoking.
So getting back to this little time frame I've been working on here, in 1969, apparently you guys were dropped off, you and 3 friends, at Bodine Campground.
Yep.
Okay.
You say Bodine?
I say Bodine.
My son too. I say Bodine. I've always called it Bodine Field.
Hey, you say tomato, I say tomato. Okay.
There you go. That's it. Yep.
I'm from New York.
Yep, there you are. Bodine.
But you and 3 friends, and you were expecting a couple more to join you later in the week, Timmy and Eddie, right?
Yep.
But they were a little late showing up after you guys had been there a few days. You'd been exploring and having some fun, cooking your food and everything. So they didn't show up when they were supposed to. So you and Wayne decided to hike on down to a piney bar, right? Called the Green Bank, which I happen to think I know where that is also.
Yep.
And you left Steve and the other guy over at camp in case they showed up, right?
Yeah.
So you're walking down this road, which you had no idea how far it was, but obviously that's a long stretch of woods, and it's starting to get dark.
Miles.
Right. And a young lady stops in her car, asks if you want to ride, and she takes you to your destination. Do you want to tell it, or should I what happens when she drops you off at the Green Bank?
We went in there and got snockered.
The bartender says, "What do you have?" You're about 14 years old, right?
14 years old, sat down at the bar and had a ball. And we continued to do that. We found ways to get down the woods and nobody acted crazy or started any crap. We just went down there and had a good time. And it was really a cool baptism, I guess you could call it, into bar life. And the funny thing about it was I wound up being the house band in the Green Bank for 2 years.
Everything works out as it should.
We played in there. There's a picture of Lorraine in the book. And I tell the whole story. The last story in the book is about the Green Bank and things that went on in there. Awesome. I actually have written a screenplay that I'm pitching called Tales from the Screamin' Holler Inn. And the Screamin' Holler Inn is the Green Bank.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Well, and you also, not only did you get snockered there, but you each left with a case of Rolling Rock ponies. Okay.
And to my knowledge, one of them cases is still buried somewhere in Bodine Field.
Ooh. And it's near the water, from what I understand, because you guys set up your lean-tos near the river, the Wading River. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's number 4 that we have in common, though. Okay.
Okay.
I too moved, like I said, down here when I was 14, right? But we took a trip back up to New York one weekend, and the parents all got together. It's cool. And so anyway, I'll keep it short. Went back up to New York. Parents went out. I was with all my old girlfriends from the block. I walked down to the local deli, 14 years old, with a mustache. I buy a case of Bud. Okay. And that's what you guys had that night at the Green Bank. You both drank Budweiser. And the girls had like a sip of each one. I had to wind up drinking the rest of the case by myself. I was, talk about snockered. I was throwing up. Yep. But that's a funny coincidence that you and I share as well. So
yeah, that's great.
But yeah, and that's the thing. When I came back here, of course, the Indian chief here in Medford, okay, and you talk about some references to that as well. We used to go in and hang out with Rose way before I was 21. You know what I mean? So again, the mustache helped.
Yeah. Back in the day, man, in the 60s and 70s and stuff. I mean, as long as you didn't act like a creep, people were cool with it. We used to go to a place in Camden called Mort's. Do the same thing, man. Sit there all night. 15 cents a beer. I mean, it was, we listened to the jukebox. or there was a place in Collingswood called Jimmy Vale's. Everybody I know sat in that place from 14 on up,
Amazing, the fun we had, and nobody got hurt. We were very lucky. We had a good time.
Yep.
Didn't start trouble, right? And if the cops pulled you over, they told you to dump out the beer and go home.
Played darts, or when they finally invented the Pong machines, you played Pong, stuff like that.
So, based on the fact that you're low on juice over there,
yeah, I'm sorry.
Did you bring your guitar with you by any chance?
I have my guitar. I'll try to get this song off, but I have allergies pretty bad.
No worries.
I'll try to do the Pine Barren Blues.
We'd love it. This is Paul Pedersen on Squatch Talks podcast, singing the Pine Barren Blues.
In the backwater marshes where the cranberries grow, the water takes on the color of wine as it flows. And every evening the sun's fire that drowns in the bay all the creatures that live here have their own special way. And I swear it's true, these Pine Barren Blues. The folks that live in the Barrens, they have a story they tell about that old Leeds woman and her child from hell. The night he's born, he took wings off and flew out into the night. They say you still hear her screaming, the conditions are right. And I swear it's true, these Pine Barren Blues. Where the scrub oaks are growing, where the years forget time, all the life that can happen still happens deep in the pines. You'll see the jack in the pulpit, maybe a devil or two. When the moonlight shines full here, you'll see some other things too. Where it's all true, these Pine Barren Blues.
That's excellent.
Oh, thank you.
That was great. Thank you.
Woo, that was great. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
What a treat. So yeah, I heard you first play that, like I said, over at That Sign when we had a little get together there for an expedition, and I remember it well. So thank you for that, and I hope our listeners will be able to hear it satisfactorily. The power on the phone I think was cutting out a little bit, so
was it
a little bit, but you know what? Based on that, I was
pretty good.
It'll be excellent, and if not,
okay,
I can always dub it in off the CD.
Yeah. Hey,
but I was going to say,
a good editor, I said, right?
Nathan, I was thinking maybe we can get Paul to write us a theme song for our podcast.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Huh?
I can't wait. How many CDs do you have? Just the one?
I have 4 out.
Okay.
I have one called Manhattan Grits I wrote the songs and my wife sang them. And I have a CD that I wrote for Samantha Burry from Rancocas, and then Agua Nora's mine, and Lines on the Pines mine. I am working on another CD and trying to get it out with the book simultaneously.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, you guys were in the recording studio last week, apparently.
Yeah.
So,
this new one's going to have more of a blues kind of flavor to it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Hey, I want you to tell folks where they can find your stuff too. Do you have a place where they can?
I guess everything's kind of like all in one package at www.downthepines.com.
Downthepines.com.
Downthepines.com. Yep.
Everything here in South Jersey is down the shore, down the,
Yeah.
And as you said, hopefully you're not up in Schitt's Creek too often. Wow. Well, that's
I've been
really
up
cool.
Schitt's Creek a couple times in my life.
Yeah.
But with a paddle, so that was helpful.
Yeah, we're always with a paddle.
Well, Paul and I will be talking more because Paul's fine works of art, because that's what they are, these Pine Barren Diamonds, okay, will be available soon also here at Health Haven too, among other small retail shops. That's where Paul likes to put his artwork and his creations. Yep. So he and I are talking about having a display here to go along with some of the fine products you find here at Health Haven too.
Great.
So I'll be sure and pass along. We'll have a link also in the description where they can get a hold of you and follow you, also on Facebook and
great.
Other locations. Okay. I'm kind of wrapping it up because I know you're running out of power and I don't want to just cut off. That's cool. We're gonna have to get together again because I know you got more stories to tell.
And bunches of them.
And you're very entertaining to listen to. So
anytime I can do it, man, I'll do it.
Cool.
Yeah, awesome. Let's do it again soon. And I'll figure out
So we're not live, just so you know. Okay.
Yeah.
And what I do is we, get a little small talk and some business out of the way in the beginning, and then we jump in with the introduction. Okay.
Okay.
I've already prepared some questions to ask, but mainly I want, you to do most of the talking. I've been told I talk too much, so people are tired of hearing me blab on. But amazing. Well, we had some technical difficulties last week. I lost power. We had a guest lined up. I lost power.
Oh man.
I swear it was like, off for a moment a couple of times over the last week or so, right? I said, okay, it'll come back on. I'm all set up. An hour later, I text these guys. I said to Nathan and our guest, I said, well, I guess we'll have to reschedule. As soon as I sent the text, the power came back on.
Wow.
I mean, it's like the curse of Sasquatch, we call it,
Somebody didn't want you to do it, right?
Apparently.
I'm hearing noises right here in this shop. I'm in my shop next to my house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This was built by the people that lived here before me as a beauty parlor for the lady.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear all kinds of, and my house, man, next door is very active. It's amazing how active.
That's
cool. Right. I didn't tell you this, Nathan, but when I had spoken with Paul at Lines on the Pines, he mentioned to me about the paranormal activity that he has been experiencing. Okay. And I did say that we delve into that from time to time, and he kind of put it out there that we might be welcome to come check it out at some point.
There you go.
Check it out. I actually wrote a short story about it. I think, you'll
get into that. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Absolutely. But no, your background looks great. I love your workshop, and I love the poster. Is that a poster in the back of your book?
That's a poster of the book. There was 2 of them made, and I got one of them.
Oh, that's awesome. It looks great. I've got the book right up here on my shelf behind me, so I'll reference it. I'll reference it as well. I've got your CD right here that I picked up at Lines on the Pines. I know you have another, but I got everything, set to go. But before I let you go, I'm gonna put you on speaker view, so it's just your pretty mug, okay? And I'm gonna have you do one last favor for me. I want you to say, "I'm Paul Pedersen Jr., and you're watching Squatch Talks podcast. Thanks for squatching."
I'm Paul Pedersen Jr., and you're watching Squatch Talk podcast. Thank you so much for squatching.
Excellent. And it's funny because, I had Jeff Meldrum do that for us for the first time. And, he's a pretty big name in our Bigfoot community. And he said, "Thank you for squatching."
Yep.
And we always end the show by saying thanks for squatching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nathan, did you have? I'm sorry, Nathan. I
no, that was great.
I monopolized Paul the entire time, but
that's all right.
I probably ran along off with it too myself. I get going. That's
the next time we have you on, then I'll ask more questions. But I want to hear more stories. That's what I'm interested in hearing. So
I got a bunch, man. I got a bunch. Do you deal with UFOs?
With UFOs? Oh yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I saw. Oh man, I have no idea. I didn't have any idea for years and years, and I finally saw what I saw on a video, and it brought almost tears to my eyes because I thought, "I'm not nuts. I saw that." And I flew right over my mother, floated very slowly right over my mother's house.
Yeah.
I was leaving, visiting her, getting in my car, and there's this thing. And it was like, oh man. Yeah.
Can you describe it?
Well, here's how I used to describe it. And it was the only way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like a spaceman sitting in a lawn chair, man.
Wow.
And it's cylindrical, but I've seen this now a couple times. The first time I saw it, the video was done in France. And there I said, "Oh my God, that's what I saw." And now it's been on a couple more videos. And it's like, because I didn't tell even my wife that I saw it, because I thought people were going to say, "He's just writing another story, man. Come on, it's bull."
Right.
And so I kept it to myself, man. There's a bunch of stuff that I have like that. because I try to be very careful about staying in a lane, but there's so much involved with all of this.
Right.
Yeah.
And the
So you
correlations.
can't just stay in one lane.
Nope.
You got to try to.
It is one lane. It's all one lane.
There you go, man.
It's all connected, man.
You're right. That's
and
right.
that's what we've been talking about, and that's why
Yeah.
Nathan and I said we would love to take you up on your offer to come down and investigate some of this paranormal stuff you've had going on. We can make that into another episode. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what, man. Let's do that here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have a cameraman.
She may react.
I've got a cameraman. I've got other, things that we can do
I'll
to make
talk
it real
this over
nice.
with my wife, because I don't know how she's going to feel about it. She don't like to interrupt if she's not good with it, I'll come over or we'll do this.
No worries. Cookie.
I'll tell you some stories.
Oh, Cookie. That's another thing we have in common. My landlord's name is Cookie. Okay.
Oh, cool.
That's what I'm talking about. This kismet, this serendipity, like your publisher, John, right? Bryant, talks about the kismet that you guys experienced.
Yep.
I said to Heather today, I said, Paul, I can see Paul and I becoming fast friends. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Yeah. Right off the bat.
Yeah. Hey, if we're not allowed to investigate the ghost, we'll just sit outside around the fire and tell campfire stories then.
There you go. Well, when we did the Pine Barrens movie, they did a couple scenes in my backyard.
Okay.
The campfire in that movie, the Pine Barrens, that was all done by my barn.
There you go.
And the second he turned that camera off, we were finished shooting, an incredible meteor flew right over top of us. He would have got the Pulitzer Prize for luck if he would have ran that camera 5 more seconds. It was the most amazing thing you ever see. You could see it bounce off the atmosphere. It was amazing.
Oh yeah.
That was a sin.
And I'll tell you, I had the same experience at my old house up the street where I had 2 spacecraft, spacecraft, UFOs, fly over real slow, silently, one in front of the other, charcoal gray, with this red disc on the bottom, or excuse me, this round disc on the bottom, pulsing reddish orange. Boom, boom.
Really?
No sound. It was only about 1,500 feet up, maybe 2,000 feet up. And I looked at my neighbor. We were watching the meteors that night. And I looked at him. I said, "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" And he went, "Yeah."
You know what, man? The thing I saw was absolutely silent. That's what I couldn't understand.
Yeah.
How can that be up there and I don't hear it? Because I thought at first when I saw it, I thought it was one of these guys with a jetpack. But no.
Wow.
I'll send you an email with that in there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I just want to thank you again, Paul, for joining us and telling us and sharing your stories with us. And what a
I
fun
enjoyed
time.
it, man. It's great.
It was fun having you on. I know. Well, if you had more camera or juice in your, I'm kidding. We'll do it again for sure. And again, thanks everybody for sticking and staying, and for tuning in. And please check out Paul's material, his CDs, and as well as his book, the Legendary Pine Barrens, available from Plexus Publishing. Okay, pick up a copy.
They can also get it there too, plexuspublishing.com.
Absolutely. Mine's autographed by the author to me and Heather. So thank you very much for that. And we look forward to talking with you again and sitting around the campfire and hopefully hearing some more of your music as well.
Yeah.
I'm glad I enjoyed it. And I'm telling everybody, thanks for squatching.
Thanks for squatching.
That's it.
There you go. Anyway, that was a lot of fun, huh?
Yeah. He's an interesting guy. Interesting guy. I would like to sit in the woods around a campfire with him.
You know what? I can invite him to the Pine Barrens expedition.
Yeah, you should.
I think I'm going to.
Yeah.
He can come out and play us a tune too. You know what I mean? And then he probably won't want to hang out afterwards, but he's welcome to come and entertain the attendees. What do you think?
Yeah, him and I can sit there and keep the fire going for when you get back.
Nice. There you go. Love it. That was fun.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
And I think the viewers will enjoy it as well. And what can I say?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for squatching. I'll be right back. I gotta take a leak.
Okay. We
Howdy.
match.
Yeah.
Nice. I figured I'd put on the Jersey Devil for this occasion. I passed on dinner tonight.
Why is that?
I'm trying to keep my girlish figure.
Starting to Santa up a little early.
You're
I really doubt that I'm gonna have the beard through summer, but we're giving it a shot. Yeah, I don't know that I'm gonna make it that long.
gonna
Get hot.
sweat.
Exactly. No, because I think it should be a little bit longer yet to be
Really?
Santa. Yeah, don't you?
I think it's a good length here.
Yeah.
I mean, you could definitely pass for Santa with this length. So we got to keep it up, keep the momentum going. That's why we got to stay supercharged with our friends from Black Rifle Coffee Company. Paul's ready to come on. What time is it? Yeah, we got 5 minutes.
Mhm.
Introduction things. I wrote down a couple of notes.
Good.
I'll make the introductions and we'll get him a little warmed up and then we'll get started. Okay. Hey, how's your energy?
It's middle of the road. Yeah, I guess for me that's pretty high.
I was going to say, pick it up a notch. Welcome back to Squatch Talks podcast. How's everybody doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Sorry, I took Nathan's line. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Oh,
Take
that's
two.
just fine.
Hey, I need some blooper material. At the end of our shows, I always add some blooper material. So there you go.
I'm Paul Pedersen Jr., and you're watching.
He said Squatch Talk.
I know.
Thank you so much for squatching. I love it. I love it. We're going to have all these different station identifications, right?
Yeah. It's good. It's good.
Pretty cool. Thanks for checking out this episode of Squatch Talks podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and give us a like. And stay tuned for more exciting stories on Squatch Talks.